Let's say you work at a big e-commerce company and you have a really important meeting with your boss, as you need to present this quarter's results, and it's a high-stakes meeting that can make or break your career. That said, it was a really bad quarter for your company, so because of that, let's pretend you throw out all your morals out of the window and you decide to mislead your boss with your data and graphs. So let me show you 7 ways to do that. Hello data people, my name is Robert and I'm here to help you understand and analyze data to make better decisions in e-commerce. First of all, if you need to show some good results and improvements you've done this quarter, although that didn't really happen, but you want to show that in your data, the easiest way is actually hiding in plain sight. So take a look at this baseball graph. Looks like this guy just doubled his throw speed, but if you look closer, you just notice that it went just up by 2 miles. That doesn't sound too much, at least not to me. I'm not a big baseball fan. But okay, that was just the sports. Maybe that doesn't count. Let's take another example. What about this political graph? It looks like when this tax cut expires, taxes will triple. If you just look at the graphs, right? What the hell is going on? Oh wait, it goes from 35% to 39.6%. Well, I mean, it's not nice to have higher taxes, but it doesn't sound as bad as it looks initially, right? So what is actually happening here? Can you spot it? Look closer, closer. Yeah, both of these graphs should be displayed from 0. By not starting the y-axis of graph at 0, this exaggerates differences, making them appear more dramatic than they actually are. And this is my misleading trick number 1. And it's easy to mislead your boss with this information. So if your e-commerce conversion rate graph looks like this and there is barely any growth, then just convert the graph like this. So forget about starting from 0 and go for what looks most impressive. Zoom in on the data as much as possible and it will look more impressive. And the best part is that you're not even lying, you're just exaggerating this. And I want you to keep in mind this quote during this video. If you torture the data long enough, it will confess to anything. Ronald H. Coase. That's pretty brilliant, right? So if you manipulate data, it will always show you what you want it to see. I love this quote. Next, look at this revenue graph. Looks like the company is steadily growing revenue, right? Nothing to worry about, growing at a good pace. Maybe a bit slower than usual in the few last years, but still nothing to worry about. What about this graph? This shows annual revenue of another company. Yikes, revenue has been decreasing year after year, not doing well, right? But actually, I lied a little. These two graphs are from the same company and show the same data. One adds up the revenue each year and is a cumulative graph. And the other one shows annual revenue. And cumulative graphs are my second trick. So next time you are in trouble and your e-commerce revenue is down, why not convert your annual graph into cumulative? I bet most people won't even notice. And you will deliver good news to everybody with a smile. So the next trick is so confusing to our brains that even if you stare at it for a long time, it's still hard to read the graph. Take a look at this one. It shows gun deaths in Florida after a new law enacted that basically enables people to use deadly force in self-defense. So if you look at this graph, it looks like gun deaths went down after the law was enacted. Pretty surprising considering that there should be more guns now there. But wait, can you spot the issue here? The graph is inverted. If it goes down, it means there are more deaths. Yeah, look at it. On top, you have the 0, and as you go down, the numbers increases. Instead, the graph should look like this. So when the new law was enacted, the gun deaths went up immediately, and the baseline stayed there since. It really messes up with our brains, right? We are just so used to seeing that up is good, that's more, and down is less, and that's usually bad. When it comes to graphs like these, it's just that's the conventional way. So take a look at this graph. It shows the conversion rate of a shop over a year. Look at that hockey stick growth. It's just, looks great, right? Wait a minute, why is the last number going up on the chart if the number is lower than the other one? That's right, it's inverted, and so up is bad and down is good. And this brings me to the third trick. Use an inverted vertical axis. Most of your stakeholders won't even notice while working on their computers. They'll just see the graph and, hum to themselves, yeah, we're doing great. And they'll take it as a face value. Or even if they do notice, they will be so confused that you can just go to the next misleading slide. Okay, let's bring our morals back just for a second, because data is not created equal and you should be only looking at data that is relevant to your role. That's why I've created a cheat sheet which shows you the most important metrics and KPIs specific to different e-commerce roles. You can download it by clicking on the first link in the video description. So, okay, let's go back to being evil. The next trick is really evil as it plays with our brain's limitations. Take a look at this pie chart. Which of these has the biggest slice? And which one is the smallest? From a quick view, I would say the purple is the biggest and then the smallest is the blue, right? That's how it looks like to me at least. However, here's the same pie chart from different perspective. Did you guess it right? You can clearly see that purple and red are the same size and the green is much smaller than the blue. And that's the fourth trick. 3D charts are evil because of depth perception. It's harder to see the actual sizes of each of the pies if you put it in 3D. So whenever you need to make something appear larger than it is, use 3D charts and make sure you make the viewing angle as shallow as possible. So if this is the pie, you go like this with an angle. So the elements in the back look smaller. They're more distant, so they're smaller. So for the next trick, most people confuse the two terms, so this is something we can take advantage of. Let me tell you a story. Let's say you are a wizard in training at the Academy of Evil Data. One day, your potion professor gives the class 2 magical potions. Blue potion, this one increases something by 10%. Red potion, this one increases something by 10 percentage points. Since you are a curious wizard to be, you decide to test them out on your 2 websites. Right now, both websites have an ad conversion rate of 20%. The first website gets the blue potion. The second website gets the red potion. In your opinion, which website will have a higher conversion rate the next day? We assume the potion works in a day. If you say they will have the same conversion rate, then you are totally wrong. Because the first website would have a conversion rate of 22% and the second website would have 30%. This is because percentage points are added to the current number, whereas percentage increase is multiplied by the current number. This doesn't mean you should always use one or the other when misleading, and that's my 5th trick. Mix percentage and percentage points to create confusion to further your goals. So if you need to inflate something, see which one looks bigger. And when you need something to look smaller, see which one sounds smaller. Let's say, for example, you increased your affiliate traffic from 1% to 2%. You could say that we increased our affiliate traffic by 200% last month. Sounds pretty impressive. But actually you just went up by 1 percentage point. That could mean just 100 more visitors. So in this case, a percentage increases, it just sounds much better, right? 200% or 1 percentage point. On the other hand, if your conversion rate dipped from 4.5% to 4%, just say that you had a drop of 0.5 percentage points. It sure sounds harmless compared to an 11% drop in revenue. Anyway, most people are too embarrassed to ask stupid questions that they will just stay quiet and pretend they understand. This takes me to the next trick, which is very similar to the previous one, but you can choose to use absolute numbers, or on the other hand, you can use ratios and then mix them up, whatever works best for you. For example, let's say your average order value went from $12 to $10. You can either say AOV dropped by $2 or AOV decreased by 17%. I would go with the $2. Or if you need to downplay something, for example, a new feature you just launched, but now your data team found out it has decreased the revenue by 0.5%, that's not too bad, right? Well, your yearly revenue is 100 million. That means this feature is costing you $500,000. Which number would you show to your boss? I can guess which one you go for. Presenting numbers without context or not adjusting for population size can give you a distorted picture, and that's what we want. Now, if you're hopelessly running behind your competitors, and then use the next trick. Take a look at this graph. This is world oil production for 20 years or so. Do you notice what's surprising here? Well, first of all, I didn't know that UK is such a big oil producer. I mean, it's bigger than the rest of the world. That is pretty surprising. I mean, what happened to Saudi Arabia and Qatar and these countries? How can UK be bigger than that? But wait, why do we jump from 1 to 10 then to 100 on the y-axis? Well, that's because this is a logarithmic chart and it basically uses multiplier of 10 to go from step to step. You could have some other multiplier, 2, 5, 1,000, it doesn't matter as long as it always uses the same multiplier on the chart. And now here's a linear graph of the same data. Looks pretty different, right? You can see that we add 100,000 to each steps in the y-axis. So that's my last trick for you. Use logarithmic charts to compare yourself to competitors. It sure will put you ahead, even if you're a much smaller company. But be careful, sometimes logarithmic graphs can diminish the mirage you're trying to create. Because if you want to show seemingly explosive growth, then it's better to use linear graph like this one right here. Logarithmic graph might just actually show that the growth we've had so far is pretty much similar to past years. And here's an example of a graph like that. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this, a little bit different approach to this video, but truthfully, it is really easy to mislead people with data. So as data people, we have the responsibility to keep it honest and call out when someone intentionally or unintentionally uses misleading data. And since you already tossed your moral compass earlier today, how about learning how to use AI to do your analysis work for you in Google Analytics? That's why you should watch this video next if you want to learn how to use this AI to analyze your data.